Alrighty. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison. If we have not met or if you haven't had a chance to tune into last week's training, I am the Lexis rep here at Golden Gate, and I'm so excited to work with all of you. This training is going to be kind of building on what we covered last week. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, that link never expires. So I highly encourage going back, watching that. Both Mark and I kind of give an intro on into Lexis and Westlaw. So super helpful resources to have on hand. So today specifically, we're going to be kind of covering a little bit more of what your professors covered last week in class. We're going to chat briefly about secondary sources. We are going to cover statutes and annotations, and then finally word searches. We did chat a little bit about these last week, but we will go into more detail. We play with a new hypo, and then we'll wrap up and you're good to go. So without further ado, let's jump straight in with a hypo. I always like to do this because I think it's a great way to understand how to break down an assignment, whether it's in your job or in school. So I have this research assignment here. This is actually truly from my 1L writing class. So I did not write this, but I will take limited credit for it, for retyping it on this slide. All right, so a psychotherapist treats a patient named Paul who recently got divorced. Paul suffers from insomnia, depression, and anxiety. Paul shares with the psychotherapist that he sometimes thinks about beating up his ex-wife's new boyfriend. Paul says that he knows where the new boyfriend lives, and he sometimes parks his car outside the boyfriend's house and waits for him to come home so he can confront him. Paul reports that he's done this several times, but has repeatedly abandoned the plan last minute. So the psychotherapist, your client, wonders if, one, he has a duty to warn the boyfriend that Paul may pose a threat, and two, if he can be held personally liable for failing to warn the boyfriend should Paul decide to act on his urges. You are in California. So if you didn't get a chance to watch last week's video, I'm going to pop up our preliminary considerations. As a reminder, this is our first step when we are given a research assignment. We look at our jurisdiction, we look to legal issues and relevant facts, and then finally we consider a deadline. So here, pretty simple jurisdiction. We were told we're in California. Legal issue, looks like we are wondering if a psychotherapist has a duty to warn and if they can be held personally liable for failing to warn. Some relevant facts, maybe that Paul has identified a victim, potentially that Paul has tried to act on this plan before. We'll see a little bit more as we read along, do a little more research. And then finally, deadline. We don't have one here, but always take note of when your deadline is. Another quick little recap here. This is our research pyramid. We always like to start with secondary sources. Secondary sources are the best place to start. And I said this in my video last week, but I like to recount it. I feel like 1Ls fight me on this quite a bit. And then by the time you're a 3L, you go straight to secondary sources because you have learned that this is your starting point. Starting with secondary sources not only helps you understand your topic or area of law, they also identify and then link out to primary sources. So a great way to start to familiarize yourself, orient yourself with the area of law, and then link out to those primary sources. I kind of think that treatises are the best place to start. I think of treatises kind of like a cookbook for lawyers. They're written on a single topic by law professors, judges, or other practitioners, and they kind of give you all the ingredients, cases, statutes, regulations that you're going to need. It tells you how to mix them together. So treatises, think T for textbook, T for treatise, your guide, your starting point. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop on over to Lexis. And remember, if you just log into Lexis, you are brought to this research homepage. Lexis already populates legal research in the left-hand corner here. We don't have to select any of these other little options. We're going to stay in legal research. And we're going to start really broad today with our search terms. So we learned last week, and you've learned in your legal writing classes, that there are two types of searches. There's Boolean searching, which we'll cover in a second, and natural language searching. I like to start with natural language searching, and I like to start really broad. So let's go ahead and type in psychotherapist. Ooh, if I can spell it right, psychotherapist and duty to warn. Let's go ahead and type that in there. Right off the bat, our results are going to be sorted in relevance order. Lexis assumes we're searching in cases, but remember, we want to start with secondary sources. So super easy. I'm going to click secondary materials. And then I'm going to go to treatises and guides. Remember, T for textbook, T for treatise. This is where we want to start. All right. So right off the bat, we are, oops. Sorry, friends. 1 second. Let's try this one more time. Oh, that's why. I need to choose my jurisdiction. Okay, so psychotherapist duty to warn. We're going to go to secondary materials. We're going to select treatises and guides. And then important, remember, first step, jurisdiction. So we're going to go down and we're going to say California because our assignment told us we are in California. And you'll see every time I add one of these filters on the left-hand side, my results list is resorted in terms of relevance to my search terms. So you'll see up here, I have my search terms, psychotherapist, duty to warn. I have selected treatises and guides. I've limited to California. I can always add additional search within results to narrow my results even further. And then my results list would shift around again, narrowed or rather sorted in terms of relevance to my search terms. So the great thing about the fact that Lexis sorts these in terms of relevance is that you don't have to do a ton of scrolling. It's a huge time saver. You're going to find helpful documents right at the top of the list. So actually, this first one here looks relevant to us. This is California Torts, a leading authority on California tort law. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this. It looks like it could be something relevant to me, existence of special relationship, duty. Let's go ahead and pop in here. The first thing you're going to see when you scroll down through this treatise is that Lexis has highlighted my search terms within the document. That's helpful if you want to scroll through, see where your search terms are used. You can scroll through parts of the document on the left-hand side here, or you can click into table of contents, which I'm going to recommend you do. I like starting with table of contents, kind of gives me a bird's eye view of the treatise. All right, so I went to table of contents. I see I'm in existence of special relationship imposing a duty to warn. Seems like it could be relevant to me. I'm going to click this little plus button. Let's see if there's anything here that looks especially relevant to us. There we go. Let's see. Psychotherapists and others responsible for dangerous or mentally disturbed persons. Looks like that could be something super relevant to me. I'm going to click into this. Perfect. And here I am. I'm going to be able to read through this and see if there's anything relevant to me. Now, I've already read through this, so I'm going to just pop us right to the parts I highlighted because we don't have a ton of time today. But if you go here, you'll see statutory codification of duties imposed on psychotherapists. So there's a statute on point for me. I can highlight this language. I can annotate. I can add a note. If I scroll back up to the top here, there is a case on point for me. Let's see. We had Tarasoff at the top here, Tarasoff case. So already before I even jumped into primary source resources or research, I have a relevant case and statute that might be on point for my issue, my assignment. So of course, I want to save this to a folder so I can always reference it later on. Super easy to do. All I'm going to do, choose a folder and save it to that folder. It's going to save with my annotations. It's going to save with my highlights. And then of course I can also print it to the Lexis printers in the basement, which will also print with the annotations and highlight, but keep in mind, it will print in grayscale. So if you're someone who gets really excited about color coding all your highlights, sadly that will be lost when you print, but still a great resource to have free printing. Take advantage of it, use it. I think early on in the legal research process, when I was a 1L, I really liked to have them out in front of me so I could cross-reference different sections, personal preference. So you can also email it or download it as a PDF. All right, so we've identified a statute, we've identified a case. I can click directly into the hyperlinked statute or the hyperlinked case, which is great, saves me a little bit of time. But for illustrative purposes today, I'm going to go back to my Lexis Plus homepage and show you how I would pull up that statute and then show you the different parts. We covered how to pull up a case in last week's recording. We can pull that up by citation or by case name, or like I said, it's hyperlinked in that secondary source, so I could just click in there. Today, we're going to focus more on statutes, though. So I'm going to type in my statute. And this was the statute I identified in my secondary source. I'm going to run the search for it. And here we go. We're brought right into the text of the statute. On the left-hand side here, you're going to be able to see the table of contents, which remember is kind of like that bird's eye view of your document. These are lengthy documents, so scrolling through them is not always in the best interest of time because some of these you don't care about. You don't care about civil arrest in a courthouse. You're looking at duty to warn for psychotherapists. So save yourself the time. Start with this table of contents on the left-hand side here. So let's go ahead and look at our table of contents. We can scroll through, see if anything looks especially relevant to us. And you'll have to forgive me, I'm having to deal with a weird right-click situation happening right now. All right, and there we are. We are in psychotherapist duty to protect. That's where we are. If I close the table of contents, I want to show you on the left-hand side here, you hear the term annotated statutes thrown around quite a bit. I'm going to show you what that actually means. Annotated statutes on Lexis contain all of these parts. History, annotations, notes to decisions. I believe on Westlaw, they're called notes of decisions. So just note that distinction. Notes to decisions are particularly relevant. Notes to decisions are kind of like a highlight reel of cases applying or interpreting your statute. They're example cases selected by Lexis editors. So little asterisk here. I like to tell students to look on Westlaw and Lexis. So look at both the notes of decisions on Westlaw and the notes to decisions on Lexis. Why? Because Lexis editors are different than Westlaw editors, and you might get different results in each of those notes. So, you know, in the interest of being extra thorough, look to both of those resources. Who knows, you might find something on either resource that's not listed in the other. All right, so let's go ahead and jump down to notes to decisions. You can see here there's generally and particular actions. Sometimes its notes to decisions table of contents is really long. There's only 2 parts here, so I can jump either to generally, which is right there, or I can jump to particular actions, which is right there. And I can read through this to identify some particularly relevant cases, or perhaps maybe other regulations or statutes that may be on point for me. So to find additional cases, let's say you've identified the statute in your secondary sources. Now you've read through the notes to decisions. You want to find some additional cases. That is super easy to do. All you're going to do is not that. I can tell you that. All right, friends. All you're going to do here, let's get over here. I don't know why that keeps disappearing. There we go. We're going to click Shepardize this document. So Shepards, which we'll cover in future classes, I don't want you to worry too much about its full functionality right now. All I want you to do right now is have blinders on the fact that Shepards is a tracking tool. Shepards is going to provide a list of all the times your case or statute has been cited by another case, statute, whatever. So we want to find other cases that cite to this statute because they might also be on point for us since we know this statute is on point for us. We can Shepardize the whole document, which will pull up a list of cases that have cited to this statute. Or this is unique to Lexis, and I think this is a really cool feature. You can Shepardize sections of the statute. So if I click signals on subsections, if I find that one particular subsection of this statute is particularly relevant to me, I don't have to Shepardize the whole document. I can actually click into this little symbol and it's going to find cases that cite to that particular section of the statute. So super relevant. It's kind of like, I think of this as like the Amazon list when you shop on Amazon and then Amazon says, you may also like I buy a lot of cat toys. And so Amazon suggested a cat leash to me the other day, which was a little jarring because I'm too young to have a cat leash. But nonetheless, Amazon knows it's smart. It picks up on what I'm shopping for and it recommends like items. That's what Shepardizing does. It says, hey, you like this statute. Let's find all the cases that cited to this statute. They may be relevant to you. So that's how I can find related cases once I've identified a particular statute. It is that easy. Now, we've done our secondary source research. We identified a statute. We identified a case, a couple cases actually. Now I want to go back to my Lexis Plus homepage and run through a quick overview of natural word searches and Boolean searches. So I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner here. Now, we chatted a little bit about natural language searches last week. Lexis is super smart. You can actually just type in a question to Lexis, like if I wanted elements of negligence, Lexis will answer it for me. It's kind of like the Hey Siri of legal research. Natural language searches are just like what they sound like. It's anytime you search on Google or any other web service provider, you just type in the language. The natural language searches are great because they're convenient, but as I mentioned last week, sometimes they can pull an overly broad case list or results list. Boolean searching, those terms and connectors, are super helpful in tailoring your search so that you're making sure you're getting as specific as possible. So you can type in commands into the Lexis search box. Lexis recognizes them. They're not case sensitive. And then I'm going to go ahead, and something I found really overwhelming is how many terms and connectors there are. I want to stress that you do not have to memorize these terms and connectors. The more you play with them, the more natural they will become to you. But you do not have to memorize them. If you click advanced search in the right-hand corner here, you're going to be brought to this advanced search page. And on the right-hand side, there's this little like cheat sheet. You can view all connectors and commands, see the function of what they do. There's also this template searching feature, which we're going to cover in a minute. But for right now, I'm going to go back to my Lexis Plus homepage. I just wanted to draw your attention that these are here for you. So if ever you're like, hey, what do quotations do? I can just pop over to this advanced search, get a quick reminder. So right now, let's go ahead and start on our Lexis Plus homepage. I'm going to show you the most common terms and connectors. There are more, but I think let's start simple, start with what you need. So the most common, I have like 3 most common. First is a very obvious one. It's the word and. So and is going to pull 2 or more words anywhere in the document. So for example, if I do duty to warn and psychotherapist, if I do duty to warn and psychotherapist, Lexis is going to retrieve duty to warn. Duty to warn, I know it's 3 words, but Lexis recognizes this as a common legal phrase. It's going to search it as one. And psychotherapist. It's going to retrieve documents that have duty to warn and psychotherapist anywhere in the document. So that's and. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's see if I add an or here. Now I've got and or. This is going to pull results, psychotherapist or counselor. Lexis prioritizes the or, and duty to warn. So my results are going to contain the phrase duty to warn and either psychotherapist or counselor. The next common one is quotations. And now people love to add quotations. I think it is kind of a security blanket, but please know quotations, the idea behind quotations rather, is that they retrieve exactly what you put into the quotation marks. So if I do this, duty to warn in quotations, Lexis is going to pull duty to warn exactly as I've written it. Quotations are kind of like a security blanket. I say that because you can trust that Lexis recognizes so many common legal phrases that you really don't have to add the quotations. And sometimes they can be limiting. If I wanted like something duty to warn liability or something, or actually that's not gonna work either. Let's do like, if I wanted element of negligence and I just type in element and I forget the S, it's only going to pull documents that say element of negligence instead of elements. Whereas if I don't do the quotations, it's going to pull both the S and the non-S. So quotations are great, but don't get silly with them. You can just plug in duty to warn. You can just plug in those common legal phrases. If you're not sure if it's a term of art or common legal phrase, that's when maybe I would recommend using the quotations. Another common one is parentheses. Parentheses are going to pull only one of the search terms. So like if I do psychotherapist or counselor or doctor, and then I close it in the parentheses, Lexis is going to pull one of these 3 search terms. And then the final 2 I want to point your attention to are root expanders and proximity connectors. Root expanders are pretty cool and you can kind of have fun with them. They find variations of the provided root word. So if I wanted to see, let's do like psychotherapist. Yeah, let's do that. If I do that, Lexis is going to find psychotherapist, psychotherapy. I think that's it. Psychotherapist and psychotherapy. it's going to find different endings to this root word. So I could do like warn, and it's going to find warned, warn, and warning. That's a root expander. And then finally, proximity connectors. So proximity connectors are a great way to find documents and locate them with respect to where your terms appear in the document. So let's say I wanted duty to warn within, let's do 5 words of psychotherapist. What this is going to find for me is duty to warn within 5 words of the word psychotherapist. And it's that simple. Again, if you ever forget those search terms or those connectors, you can pop on over to the advanced search page here. They're on the right-hand side. There is this little template searcher, which can be super helpful. It can help you build your confidence as you're learning to build these search strings. But honestly, I say just try. This is a helpful tool, but you're more than capable of building these search strings on your own. I'm going to really quickly show you, if you do feel like you want to use this, how this would work. Let's do any of these terms. We could do psychotherapist and counselor, and you'll see if I add it, it populates up into the search bar here. It even adds the or for me. So now Lexis is going to pull psychotherapist or counselor, and I want to include the term duty to warn. So if I add this, it's going to pull duty to warn and psychotherapist or counselor. So it builds my search string for me. But like I said, you can start really basic. You can start with that natural language. You can start with those basic terms and connectors and an or. You are more than capable of doing it. It is a little scary when you get started, but by the time you enter your second semester, you're going to be doing these in your sleep. I really quickly want to just highlight my contact information up on the screen. If you have any questions with Lexis functionality, or you have any questions with how to use that template search, I am happy to help. There's also 24/7 Lexis support. They are up all night. They are just to help you. So if you have any issues accessing your Lexis account or need any help with anything, please, please, please give them a call. Other than that, I think that was a lot of information, so please feel free to reach out with questions. I know Mark is happy to help as well. Let me stop share here. Mark, anything to add?
I think that's it. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Mark, quick question before we leave.
Mm-hmm.
Does Westlaw also search for common legal phrases without the need for quotation marks?
It does.
Or should we be putting quotation marks?
It does. It will. Let me see if I can rephrase it. It's going to search for those common words that are found together and prioritize those in terms of they're more relevant. But you will still have other items where it puts an or in between. Those will be lower down on the list, but the list is still going to be more heavily populated, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm always going to recommend quotes. It's, you know, but it's easy enough, but you definitely will find what you want if you don't use quotes. Just might take a little step.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I knew the comparison there.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. This was great.
Well, cool. I'll upload this to Lexis, Mark, or to YouTube, Mark, so that we have, I mean, do you want to upload it too? It's up to you if you want it in your YouTube as well.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Sharon,
yeah,
I could do that as well. Because I think we cover a lot of the same stuff, and if you can share this with other schools too.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, we'll do.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.